So I probably told this story before, but I'm gonna go ahead and tell it again because I love this story. It's a story of how I really got into bodybuilding. Shout out to my little brother Kyle Parker, Clip Dart. He really got me going well in this marketing and advertising and social media game. He's making me do some things that are uncomfortable, so I'm gonna go out here and do something that is uncomfortable, and I'm gonna let you guys know a vulnerable story. Okay, so when I was 15, I was a starting cornerback on the Lincoln East football team. Shout out to Lincoln East. Shout out to Rob Zvonar. He's killing it. East has probably been in state 4 or 5 times since I've been in high school. And that was back in 2011. I graduated. And so in 2009, I was a sophomore in high school, and I was a starting cornerback. I wasn't an all-star. I wasn't a 5-star recruit, but I would say I was like a 3.5 or 4. I was pretty good. So naturally, I thought I would be selected to be on the varsity squad. Varsity, when they went into playoffs, so they got into the playoffs, they always brought up the freshman and sophomore to use as practice dummies. That's what they would say. But we would be on the practice squad. So that was something that I was looking forward to, mainly for the ego, mainly for the notoriety and the reputation of being on varsity. That's why I look forward to it. I didn't really look forward to sitting on the sidelines or being a practice dummy. So like I said, I was 3, 4, probably 4-star. Definitely wasn't 5, because if I was 5, I'd be on varsity and I would be starting. So I was good enough to go on to varsity. And what they do, or they did at the time, is that they sat everybody in a room that was on the team, and they announced to people off of a sheet of a paper the athletes who were going to be traveling with the varsity, working with the varsity postseason. So sophomore season was done. That was it. If you got called up to varsity, they had a list of names, and they named off your name. So I was sitting there in the middle, about middle to the back. I remember it's in the classroom, and the 2 coaches were up, and they were calling off names, and they would do it by position. And I think we were in the defense was in the room at that time, and I was a starter, so I knew that I would, naturally be selected to go up, and that didn't happen. I remember he called off all the names, and I remember Colin Hickey, because me and Colin Hickey, I think Jim Wilson, and I believe it was a couple other guys, Joe Persanti maybe. There was a couple other guys that were starters with me, and I remember him just last name was like Colin Hickey, and I was like waiting for mine, and my name didn't get called. That shit shut my entire life down in a matter of a second. I mean, I had girls wearing my jerseys. I thought I was an all-star. I was like the highlight black kid of the school. That shit shut my ego down, shut my confidence down. My self-confidence went through like lower than low. I felt like the walls were caving in. I felt like the world went pitch black on me. Remember, I was only 15 years old, so I had a lot riding on my reputation and ego at that time, being a football player. So that shifted my life. I literally at that moment was like, fuck football, fuck coaches, fuck everything. Now, being mature now, being 31, I see why they didn't call me up, because I did have a lot of, I talked back to the coaches. I was like the normal black kid, talked back to the coaches, didn't really do the things I was supposed to do, but I had a lot of talent. And they didn't go for that. They said, hey, we don't need you. So, looking back at it now, I understand why they made that decision. But even then, that was very hurtful to me. But I also believe that I needed that to start the path that I'm on now. So long story short, well, that was a long story, and it's not short. But I remember grabbing my bag. It was, the normal gym bag, the normal bag that we all carry. And I remember grabbing my bag, and I literally walked down the hallway straight to the weight room. And I remember the distinct smell of the rust, that old school vibe. It was the Lincoln East football weight. Well, it wasn't just a football weight room, but we were in there primarily. And that's where I really felt strongest. That's where I really felt most confident. That's where I really felt like I outshined everybody. I won contests in there. I didn't lift the heaviest because I wasn't the heaviest, but I was doing a lot for my weight. And I just remember falling in love with the feeling of power: a leg press, deadlifts, squats, bench, barbell curl. I was doing all the old school movements, and I enjoyed how it made me feel. I felt super confident, felt super strong. So that was something that I really look forward to, especially post practice when we would take off the pads, take off the helmet, and we would jump into the weight room. I look forward to it. I love the weight room. Some people despise it. Some people are like, I hate this. Some people would sneak out and go home and just skip the workouts. I loved the workouts. So I remember after that classroom setting of not being called up, I literally walked straight down to the room, weight room, and I this is like one of those like traumatic PTSD like experiences that some of us may have where you just remember everything. It was such a deep moment for me. I just remember doing barbell curls, easy bar curls, and my arms were just swollen. Like I curled and curled and curled and curled, and I had so much pain. I just curled until I couldn't curl anymore, and I went home, my arms were just pulsating. And I remember that feeling. It's the same feeling I got when I was 9 years old and I snuck in my dad's closet and he had a little 15-pound dumbbell and I did the same thing. I curled. So I've been connected with bodybuilding for so long. So like that's the primary story of how I got into like weightlifting. After that, I didn't play football junior year. I was like, fuck football. And I joined wrestling because it's a more individualistic sport. We still hit the weight room and such. But throughout that, I mean, I didn't play sports. I just did wrestling in the winter. But all throughout like the spring, the fall, the summer, I was just lifting. It was a gym down the street, Body Tech. Shout out Body Tech Mokina. And Steve. Shout out to Steve, the owner. And I just grew there. I just started to lift. I started to pick up. Here's another story. My mom, when she was alive, she took me to the Walgreens in our neighborhood, in our community Walgreens, and she would get her little, nail products and little deodorants and things like that. And I remember walking by the magazine aisle, and magazine aisles always attracted me because it was so artistic and all the little covers were pretty cool, the illustrations. And I remember seeing a bodybuilder, Johnny Jackson. This was my first magazine ever, a muscle mag. He was just picking up the weights, a stack of like a stack of like 945s. He just looked so strong and so powerful doing it. And he was a black bodybuilder. So I connected immediately. And I was like, Mom, I need to get this magazine. I really want this magazine. This is going to teach me about weights and what to eat. And I remember going home, flipping through that magazine. That was like the Bible. I flipped through it. I read every single word. It was like articles and pictures and illustrations and what to eat and how to train, how many sets and how many reps. And I took that same knowledge I had and I amplified it in the football weight room. Football weight room was more for strength, but I was going for more muscle and power, or muscle and the overall physique look that they were not teaching us at that time. And most of the guys that were teaching us, like I said, now being 31, they were not qualified to teach young kids of how to be strong, how to build muscle the proper way. The people's forms were all fucked up. We weren't really being trained that way. So I took that knowledge and that self-taught knowledge and I read through the magazines, and I eventually got subscribed to Muscle Mag, and I just went straight to the gym, and I just that seed was implanted, and I just went out there and I watered that seed. So, I mean, that's how I really got started into bodybuilding as far as the aspect of say the body of bodybuilding, but like the sport of actually competing 5 years after not being called up to varsity. That was my first competition. That was 2014. I was a sophomore in college or junior in college, one of the two, sophomore or junior in college. And I competed for the first time, and that was 5 years after I wasn't called up. And then from there, that's 10 years later, I've done 7 shows. I'm not, like I said, I'm still a 3-star, 4-star. That's what I feel like. I'm not an all-star, and I'm never going to take it to that level of anabolics, of drugs, of food, of just the complete, autofocus you have to have, cutting out everything out of your life to be at that level. That's just not my cup of tea. So I'm staying in my lane. It's something I love, is a passion of mine, but I know how to rock with it so I can have longevity in the sport. I look forward to doing this for another 10 years, but competitively, that is. But that's just a story, man. I wasn't called up for varsity. It shifted my entire perspective, and I started to hit the weights because the weights are what gave me that self-confidence. But yeah, just a couple of other stories I would add. I mean, I know I've been talking a lot right now, but I would say like a couple other things I would add would be just more bodybuilding focused things. So like I said, when I was 8 or 9, I snuck into my dad's closet, and He had a 15-pound dumbbell, and I remember when they weren't home, I would just do some curls and push-ups, and I didn't really know what I was doing, but I remember how it felt. The blood rushing to your muscles, the tight feeling you guys get, that tight feeling that we get when we get pumped, like that feeling made me feel strong, and the next day I always felt stronger. So that's something that I always loved. Fast forward again, I would say it was 8th grade or freshman year of high school. It was one of the two. I was very young, and I remember this. I was flipping through channels, and there's always, like, back in the day, bodybuilding used to be on TV. I was flipping through channels, and I flipped through the strongman. I flipped through a couple like Olympic sports, and then I flipped down, and it was like Mr. Olympia. And when I clicked Mr. Olympia, I thought it was like strongman, like carrying big boulders, walking, waddling, and throwing things over the head. I was like, I love watching strongman because the guys are huge. Like, I love that look. I was like, okay, let me see what Mr. Olympia is. I don't know what it is. Once I clicked it, it wasn't a commercial break. It wasn't, random. It was the exact moment when Jay Cutler went on stage, and I don't remember seeing any other bodybuilders, but I remember seeing Jay Cutler. And I was like, that dude is massive. But it wasn't just the mass. He had striations, cuts, shape, symmetry, everything. It was just popping. And I was like, that's a little bit different from strongman. Strongmans are big and buff, but like they're not cut like that. I love the beauty. I fell in love with it right there. But once again, I didn't connect with it until I didn't get called up for football. So then I started hitting the weights, then the magazines came, and from there I subscribed to the magazines, and every month I got subscribed magazines from Muscle Mag, where I would learn more and more and more. And I'd be that young kid, ripped off the sheets, plastered them on my wall. If you went into my room or into my basement gym, you saw pictures of all bodybuilders across my wall. Arnold to everybody else, Vic Richards, Franco Colombo, and then Johnny Jackson, Jay Cutler, all the names, Ranch Warren. It was just something that I truly loved. And then another story, I'm fast forwarding, I'm jumping back, I'm doing a lot, but another story was, here's the final one. I went to Disney World or Disneyland, I can't remember. I was super young. I was in 4th grade because I had a little afro, so I'll always remember that. And my brother and I were in Disneyland or Disney World with my cousin, second cousin, and then my mom. So I don't know if you guys seen these little things, but you can take a picture of your head and then put it onto a body of a police officer, a firefighter. These are for children mainly. A police officer, a firefighter, Hulk, Spider-Man, Batman. There were so many options. My brother put it on a football player because my brother loved football. So he put his head, and they took a picture. He smiled, and they put him on a football player. My mom, like I said, is one of those things I remember. I remember looking up, and it was just a wall of so many things you can be. And my mom looked back, and she said, "What do you want?" And I was like, that big black guy. My mom was like, "Are you sure that's what you want?" I'm like, "Yeah." She, "Do you know what that is?" I'm like, "I just want that. I want that." And I'm going to see if I can find a picture for you guys. But I took a picture of my little cute little head, and they put it on a bodybuilder, like a 250-pound black bodybuilder. Like, what are the odds of that? So it's like when things are something you love or something, you're passionate about something, it's innate. Sometimes God or the universe or the stars or whatever the hell you believe in, it gives you that at birth. It gives you that as you grow, when you get older. It's nurtured inside of you. So I always had that inside of me, and that's something that I truly love. I love bodybuilding. I love everything about it. Like I said, I'm in my lane personally. I'm not comparing myself to anybody else, and I'm not trying to be somebody else. I'm not trying to chase the high car dealers. I'm not trying to really do that. I'm trying to stay in my lane and enjoy this as long as I can. So hopefully, that was a long video, it was a long rant, but hopefully like you really got the gist of how I started bodybuilding. I love bodybuilding. I love the art. I love the sport. I love the competition. I love the diet and nutrition about it. I love the training, especially. The aesthetics, the cuts, the size, and just getting in shape and revealing, reducing body fat and revealing all the muscle that you have and have built. It's like a piece of artwork. I love bodybuilding. So that's how I got into it, man. It all started in that classroom with that guy, whoever that coach was. I don't know which coach it was, but I thank you. I thank you wherever you are. I thank you because If I was called up to varsity, that little ego, little cocky, little arrogant 15-year-old I was, I've been chilling. I probably wouldn't have ever picked up a weight in the manner that I did at that very moment when I was deeply scarred. So that is how things happen in life, and sometimes just all for the better. So blessings in disguise, and that's how I started bodybuilding. All right, Justin Parker, I'm out.